There's no doubt that denial can be a powerful force. It can help us to avoid difficult truths or painful emotions, and it can even keep us going in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But at the same time, denial can also be harmful, preventing us from dealing with our problems and making progress in our lives. In this video, we will explore the nature of denial and discuss its pros and cons. So, what exactly is denial? Denial is a defense mechanism in which a person refuses to accept reality or facts. In other words, it's a way of avoiding or repressing difficult truths or painful emotions. Denial can take many different forms, and it's often used as a way to protect oneself from feelings of anxiety or distress. On the one hand, denial can be a helpful coping mechanism. It can allow us to ignore or downplay difficult situations and emotions, at least in the short term. This can be beneficial if we're facing a situation that is too overwhelming to deal with right away. Denial can buy us time to deal with a problem more methodically and rationally. Denial can also be harmful. If we use denial as a way to avoid facing our problems, we may never actually deal with them. Denial can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness as we become cut off from our emotions. And in some cases, denial can even make a problem worse. If someone is in denial about their alcoholism, they may continue to drink despite the negative consequences. When we find ourselves in a challenging situation, it can be tempting to simply ignore the problem or downplay its importance. We may tell ourselves that the problem isn't really that bad, or that it will eventually go away on its own. While this type of denial can provide some short-term relief, it's not a sustainable way to deal with problems. Ignoring or downplaying a problem will usually make it worse in the long run. If you're having trouble dealing with a problem, it's important to face it head-on. Acknowledge the problem and its significance, and then start brainstorming possible solutions. By taking these steps, you'll be more likely to find a lasting resolution. Denial is a common defense mechanism that we use to protect ourselves from difficult truths or painful emotions. When we deny something, we refuse to believe or accept it, even though it may be true. Denial can help us to cope in the short term, but it can also lead to negative consequences in the long term. One of these consequences is repressing our emotions. When we repress our emotions, we try to bottle them up instead of dealing with them head-on. This can lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness as we become cut off from our emotions. It can also cause problems in our relationships, as we may have difficulty communicating our needs and feelings. If you find yourself repression of your emotions, it may be helpful to talk to a therapist or counselor who can help you to deal with them healthily. When we're in denial about our addiction, we may also rationalize our behaviors. We may make excuses for why we're continuing to do something that we know is harmful. Someone in denial about their alcoholism may continue to drink by telling themselves that they can handle it or that they need to drink to relax. These are just excuses. If we're honest with ourselves, we'll see that we're only rationalizing our behavior to justify our addiction. In reality, there's no excuse for continuing to harm ourselves with our addiction. We need to face up to the truth and get help for our problems. When we find ourselves in difficult situations, it can be tempting to blame others for our troubles. We may see someone else as the cause of our problems, and this can prevent us from taking responsibility for ourselves. This is known as denial, and it can be a very harmful way of thinking. By placing the blame on someone else, we are essentially giving up our power to change the situation. We are no longer taking an active role in our lives, and this can lead to feelings of helplessness and despair. If we want to make progress in our lives, we must take responsibility for ourselves. Only then can we hope to make positive changes in our lives. People in denial may also avoid having difficult conversations. We may be afraid to face the truth, or we may simply not want to deal with the emotions that come with it. This can lead to further isolation and loneliness, as well as relationship problems. To avoid these negative outcomes, it is important to be proactive and honest in our communications with others. If we are worried about how someone will react to bad news, it is often better to have the conversation anyway. We can provide support and comfort to the other person, and we may be surprised at how well they handle the news.